welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Today, joining us again is Ben Arthur with part two, going around the AFC South. We're going to this time discuss second team in the division, the Indianapolis Colts. And before we get to that, you know what we got to do. If you haven't already, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell here on YouTube. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, go ahead, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the Format Podcast, do a little search. We should come up. If you're enjoying the content, please make sure you give us that 5-star review and make sure you share the show with other people who like sports talk. Helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk the Colts. And 2 years ago, we saw Jonathan Taylor be an absolute machine coming out in his draft. I had him as easily the best running back prospect I'd seen in some years. I watched pretty much all his games at Wisconsin, and I just knew he was special. Last year, he dealt with a lot of injuries. Quarterback play, very suspect. Brand new coaching staff there in Indianapolis. What do you see the Colts doing in the draft, and how do you see them falling in terms of placement in the division this season?
Yeah, obviously, in terms of the draft, I mean, they need a quarterback. And like they've been in quarterback hell, really, the last several years, really since Andrew Luck surprisingly retired. They haven't had the same week one starter for back-to-back seasons since 2015, 2016. I mean, it's just been a carousel, one veteran after another. A lot of bridge guys, a lot of kind of above average, but not really great guys. Right. And so I think having the season that they had and having the number 4 pick, they have an opportunity to grab a guy who could be, their franchise quarterback. Now, it's a tough situation that they're in because the Panthers have number 1. You know, their former coach, Frank Reich, and the Panthers, they have the number 1 pick. Right. They're definitely taking a quarterback. The Texans are expected to take a quarterback. And then at the number 3 spot, the Cardinals don't need a quarterback, but a quarterback-needy team can trade up from farther back in the first round to jump in front of the Colts. So you have a situation, if you're Indianapolis, you could be looking at like the 4th quarterback on the board. And obviously all these teams maybe have these guys stacked differently, but for a team that needs to find a guy that needs that franchise quarterback and you really have control of the situation, I think that's kind of a tricky predicament to be in. So we'll kind of see what happens there, but I think they've kind of done a lot of things to kind of create a good situation for a young quarterback. Hiring Steichen, who has a great reputation in terms of developing quarterbacks. He helped Justin Herbert. He helped Phillip Rivers. He helped Jalen Hurts. All those guys come in different shapes, sizes, different skills, different strengths, weaknesses, and he found success with all of them. So you have a guy who really knows how to cater an offense to a quarterback, regardless of his skill set. And they brought in Gardner Minshew, who I think could be a really solid backup. And he was with Shane Steichen with the Eagles the last couple seasons. So in the case you bring in a rookie quarterback that's not ready to play right away, you have a guy that is already familiar with Shane Steichen's offense, his terminology, his playbook to kind of ease the transition. So the quarterback situation with them is going to be fascinating. I do think potentially, I think they should pursue Lamar Jackson. I think
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
I've heard.
Yeah, I think he would make a lot of sense for them. Like they're desperate for a quarterback. Being in the situation they're at in number 4, not really having control of who they're going to get. I think pursuing Lamar makes a lot of sense, but yeah, beyond the quarterback situation, the Colts still have a lot of work to do.
They also don't have weapons. Right.
They don't. Yeah. The wide receiver room needs a lot of work. They lost Paris Campbell. They added Isaiah McKenzie,
I saw that.
agent, yeah, but he's more of a depth guy, number 3, number 4. They probably need to add another guy to that room. They haven't done anything with their offensive line, which was awful last season. So I expect them to maybe do something there. And then corner, they traded Stephon Gilmore to the
Saw
Cowboys.
that too. Yeah.
They don't have they're very thin at cornerback. So they've bolstered their defensive line. I think their D line looks good, but their secondary needs work. The wide receivers need work, and then obviously with the quarterback situation, they could go in a bunch of different directions. So the Colts are definitely, of all the teams, their direction is probably arguably the least unclear in the division, I would say.
So one thing we can say, I guess, if Quentin Nelson comes back healthy, that's a big help to the offensive line. And
Sure.
Jonathan Taylor, just stay behind that guy. He will move earth for you. But no, I definitely hear what you're saying. And the quarterback situation, very interesting that you mentioned Lamar, because then the question is, okay, you make that move, you're going to have to give up a haul for him. Then what do you do in terms of filling your other deficiencies because you're giving up draft picks? It's a very interesting spot that the Colts are going to be in. Plain and simple, I'm thinking, and we know the Eagles love to run the ball. You are going to have to pound it probably over 300 times this season with Jonathan Taylor if he can stay healthy. And hopefully he can. This past season, I believe, was the first time he had ever missed a practice from high school to college to the NFL. Right. So, he's a workhorse back. So hopefully he can get back to his previous level of health, and we'll see what happens. But man, the Colts, as you mentioned, they've got a ton of work to do all over the place. So we'll see what happens.